how to solve your problems. In this video, I'm going to be giving you a bunch of principles for effective solutions. Now, I got a lot of these principles from developmental psychology models, and I looked at a lot of the people who are the most psychologically evolved human beings. And many of these principles that you're seeing on the board are used for gaining a sense of clarity and understanding about the world so that we can solve problems and relate to it in a more functional, sustainable, and just overall effective way. Now, the purpose of these values is not so that you can adopt them and then behave in a certain way. The purpose of these values is so that you can, for yourself, figure out ways to continuously create clarity in your life. These values are not something that you take on blind faith, but they're something that you actively experiment with. Now, I want to point out that in order to actually do this effectively, you need to think of all of these values as a skill. So holistic thinking is a skill. Compassion is a skill. Emotional intelligence is a skill, and all skills need to be developed. They need to be worked on. Like if you want to go and gain some muscles, you actually have to go to the gym and lift up weights and do that every day. I know, right? Like who'd have thought? And if you want to develop big picture thinking or being able to take on multiple points of view or mental flexibility or any one of these, this is stuff that you need to actively work on in your life. It's not just going to be like handed to you in the form of a YouTube video, but these are actually psychological skills that you need to develop. And they're kind of tricky in the sense that there's no easy way to like measure how big your big picture thinking is. And you can't really see whether someone is like a big picture thinker. It's not as obvious, for example, as like having muscles. You can see a guy's went to the gym and he's putting some muscles. Or if a guy's rich, you can see he has an expensive car and a giant house or something. But, you know, just walking down the street or, you know, just living your life, you can't really tell how many people have really developed many of these skills. And only if you have developed a lot of these skills can you actually begin to see whether or not other people have developed them to varying degrees. So this stuff is very intrapersonal, meaning it's taking place within your own mind and within your own subjective experience, within yourself. And because of that, it's not really stuff that you can just like walk around and flex and everyone's like, whoa, look at that. It's not really like that. It's more about developing various skills within yourself so that you can relate to the world in an effective way, solve problems, and overall have a better career, a better relationship, deeper well-being, a deeper understanding of every domain of life. All of these principles will help you in literally every domain of life, okay? So this video is kind of honestly ridiculous. I'm giving you a lot of very important information that it would really be wise of you to take seriously, because if you actually take a lot of this information seriously and actively develop these skills, your mind is going to be completely restructured and you're going to relate to the world in a completely different way, and you're just going to be more effective in literally every domain of your life, in your relationships, whatever the relationship is, in your career, in your well-being, in your understanding of politics or whatever it is. Name a domain, name something, you'll be better at it. Name something that involves using your mind and your emotions, and you'll be way better at it if you develop these skills. So right off the bat, I want to move to holistic thinking. Now, what does this actually mean? People who are very psychologically evolved tend to naturally see the world in terms of systems. I actually have systems thinking over here, but we'll stay at holistic thinking. Now, this involves seeing things as wholes rather than just parts. And I'm going to give you a good example of this. All of these little values, all these principles, they all work together to create a value system, okay? So I want you to get that if we add up all of these, if we take all of this, it creates a value system. And all of these parts actually relate to each other. So we have to look at what is the relationship between holistic thinking and compassion and emotional intelligence, or personal agency, creativity, and humility. Now, I want you to notice how you can actually implement that in your life. If you have some kind of relationship problem, is it because maybe you haven't read the proper books on how to handle the relationship? Maybe it's because you don't have the necessary clarity to handle that situation. Maybe you need more emotional intelligence. Maybe you need a little bit of it all. Maybe you need to get some finances in order. So when we look at a problem, we can't look at just the details of that one problem. We have to get that this problem, whatever it is actually branching out and connecting with various things. So a lot of our problems are not just isolated from the rest of the world, but are actually connected with a lot of other things that are going on. So a relationship problem can be caused by your lack of understanding in relationships, also by your diet. Maybe you're eating poor food and it's making you numb and dull and you don't have the actual clarity to relate to the situation well. Maybe you don't have the overall self-awareness or emotional intelligence to handle some of these situations and you need to work on that. So who knows, maybe it's a bit of everything. So when we think in terms of systems, we think in terms of wholes and the relationship between the parts within that whole. So like I said, this is a whole. This whole thing, this value system is a whole. And there's all these parts, like holistic thinking is a part, big picture thinking is a part, value-based decision making is a part. And they all relate, there's a relationship going on between them to create something larger than the individual part. So when you are, listening to this video right now, it's not enough to take on like one or two of these, but it's the entire system that is important. Not just one little part that you think is cool, like big picture thinking, whoa, but like wisdom or love or compassion, that's like girly hippy dippy stuff, but like, whatever, personal agency, yeah, that one kicks ass, but compassion is for girls. It's the whole thing. It's how all of these parts relate together and what that actually does to your psyche. Moving on, multiple points of view. This involves actually taking on multiple perspectives and actively looking at multiple lenses to look at a particular problem. And really, this is something that needs to be actively done. Like I said, these are skills. So taking on multiple points of view involves taking on your own point of view, taking on the point of view of another person, and actually seeing validity in the various points of view, not just taking a crap on them, they're all wrong, I'm right, or my beliefs are the best, those are bullshit. You actually want to find validity in every point of view. I challenge you to do that. In a philosophical system that you disagree with, a belief system that you disagree with, try and find the validity in that point of view. Try and find some kind of wisdom in that point of view. So this is something you got to actively do. It's not enough to kind of just like wander around and then like, we're just gaining multiple points of view. No, you got to actively do it. Like watch some videos, actually buy some books. This one right here will help you. This book right here will actually teach you how to think systemically and solve problems in an effective way. This one right here. You should buy this and read this. Moving on, big picture thinking. And right off the bat, we can see that holistic thinking, multiple points of view, and big picture thinking, there's clearly a deep relationship going on here. If you use all of these together, it's already very powerful, and we're only on the first three. So this involves looking beyond the immediate details of a situation, which is very important because when we have a problem in our life, we usually get very stuck on it, like a financial problem, like, oh, I have to solve this now, or a relationship problem, I have to solve this now. And we have a tendency to want to immediately remove the problem. This has a lot to do with immediate gratification. The whole thing with immediate gratification goes way beyond just immediate pleasure. It's the tendency to want to solve any problem or remove any sense of distress immediately, even though the real solutions to our problems often require vision, long-term thinking, and really just sustainable solutions that actually get to the root of the problem, which takes a lot of study, a lot of observation, a lot of focus, a lot of selective attention, a lot of care for it, and just a lot of research and understanding. It's very intentional. You can't half-ass any of this stuff. So big picture thinking has a lot to do with considering a broader context to put the information in and considering the long-term consequences of basically your actions. So a massive part of big picture thinking is developing a comprehensive understanding of various situations that you're in. And I want to stop for a second, and I want to talk about holistic thinking, multiple points of view, and big picture thinking right now, and the relationship between them, and how to really cultivate this. There's various practices that you can do. I would highly recommend reading books. Actually buy a book, sit down and read it. Read 5 pages a day, 10 pages, 20. Like, actually purchase it and read it. Read books on systems thinking, read books on relationships, read books on business, read books on emotional intelligence, read books on social intelligence, read books on therapy, read books on psychology, evolutionary psychology, child psychology, developmental psychology, read books on biology. And when you do that, when you do exactly what I just said, you actually gain multiple points of view and you can look at one situation from one point of view and then swap that out for another lens and look at that exact same situation from another point of view, swap out that lens, look at the same situation from another point of view, and then combine them all to get the best of various points of view so that you can actually be a holistic thinker, actually take on multiple points of view, and have a big picture thinking ability, have a big picture contextualizing ability, put the situation in its proper context instead of whatever context you might be putting them in now. Because, like I said, these are skills. You have to actively develop them. If you are not actively and intentionally putting effort, attention, and energy and time into this, you do not have these skills. So moving on, personal agency is really important. This involves taking a sense of responsibility for yourself, for the actions you do, for the thoughts you have, for the feelings that you have, for basically your whole self. Take responsibility for your own growth and development, and don't let yourself just be shaped up by the environment that you're in. Moving on, we have to talk about embracing change, and this is very difficult for people to do. Humans like to cling on to forms of stability, security, and comfort, and change threatens stability. Stability is solid and unchanging, or at least it appears to be that way, and change is very much the opposite of that. So if we are able to adapt well to new situations, to new information, to new ideas, to basically new environments and whole new ways of looking at things, we can actually have creative solutions that actually solve the problem instead of banging our head against the wall over and over again when we have some kind of emotional problem or whatever it is, emotional problem, relational problem, career problem. We need to actually embrace change and be able to change ourselves so that we can operate more effectively in the world. We need to embrace change in ourselves, which is very difficult and happens slowly. But this is something that, once again, needs to be actively done. And if you don't actively do this stuff, I don't know how many times I can stress it, you don't have much development in a lot of these skills. And these are very essential psychological skills, psychological and emotional skills that are 100% necessary for living the good life in the year 2023 and going forward in the future. The next one is value-based decision making. So you don't want to just make decisions purely based off self-interest or external pressures, but you actually want to have a clear value system and make decisions based off that. Actually value having integrity and personal honesty, and instead of a lot of the usual habits that you might have, like avoidance or storytelling or distracting yourself or selectively seeing certain things over other things so that your beliefs are, confirmed to you, actually have some integrity, care about personal honesty, even when it hurts. If you have personal honesty, really, you would know that it's not an easy thing. It's not like a little thing like, oh, we're so honest to ourselves. No, it is very, very challenging, actually. It's like there's things about yourself that you would not like to admit to yourself, and things about yourself that you would not like to see about yourself, and you've repressed them for years. Really, this is a natural part of the human psyche. It's called the shadow. And it's very important to actually have integrity and a deep sense of honesty within ourselves so that we can actually be clear, because clarity is really hand in hand with well-being and truth. If you are not well, if you are not healthy, and you do not deeply value what is true, you don't have clarity. You basically have fogginess, disease, and falsehood, which is not clear. That's not clarity. So value-based decision-making has a lot to do with actually creating a highly evolved value system for yourself, like the one I have here, and making decisions and living according to those various principles. So living according to, increasing your emotional intelligence, living according to being compassionate or integrous, or taking on multiple points of view, or learning how to think systemically or holistically. Moving on, we have collaboration. This is very important because we actually are a very social species, of course. I'm sure you probably know that. Really, our sort of community-based mind is very important in our survival. Simply being around other people helps you to survive, and it helps us to solve various problems in our life that block us from greater degrees of well-being. So you actually want to not only just work cooperatively and collaborate with people, but you want to be very selective in who you are actually spending your time with. This is very obvious, really. I mean, to me it is. Maybe not to you. But when I was young, all my teachers would say, like, watch out who you hang out with, don't hang out with the bad kids, all that awesome stuff. Fantastic. But this is very important because you actually want to find people who have high quality value systems and who actively develop a lot of these skills and who actually live according to them, because those people will actually be doing something great with their life, whereas a lot of people just couldn't care less, unfortunately, which is fine. People can literally live how they want. That's fine. But if what you want is deep clarity, effective problem solving, and you want to really master yourself and your life, this stuff is very important. This stuff is not it's not a joke. This stuff is very, very beneficial for the rest of your life. If you can actually master all of these, you will be a genius. You will be significantly more psychologically evolved than the vast majority of humans that have ever lived. That's just kind of the truth of it. I got all this information from developmental psychology, and now I'm giving it to you. This is very, very important for mastering your life. Really, when I say that, when I say that you will be more psychologically evolved than the vast majority of people, this is not a way to get power or status over other people. It's not like you're better than other people. I'm just saying this in terms of really just how psychologically evolved are you. It has nothing to do with being better than anyone. And that's not the point. Notice how I didn't write down strive to be better than anyone. Really, what we want here is clarity. What we want here is well-being. What we want here is a deep, comprehensive understanding so that we can create effective solutions. And like I said, these are skills. Most people don't develop them. Therefore, they don't have them. They need intentional effort and time and attention in order to develop. And you need to actually do it. You gotta do it. It's something that has to be done. The next one is taking a global point of view. I'm going to stay on collaboration for one more second. So yeah, you want to find people who are actually very wise and have high quality values. You don't want to spend a lot of time around really people who don't. You basically want to find human beings who are intelligent. It sounds so obvious, but you really have to find people who actually live their life according to this stuff and spend more time around them. Because when you are actually around very intelligent people, they naturally just kind of bring you up. So that's just very important. Global point of view is the next one, a global perspective. This involves recognizing that your actions actually have impacts beyond their immediate environment, and you want to consider the global consequences of your actions. This one is actually very important, and it's something that we don't like to see. There's a lot of stuff related to this that we really don't like to see about ourselves. So humans have a tendency to see themselves as like, heroes and like the best species. We're the most intelligent species. We're, so great. It's a bit narcissistic of us. But it's very important to actually recognize that on an individual level, we all contribute to global problems. We all have worked at a job, for example, that probably has some sort of unethical behaviors attached to it. Like the company we work for, where do they get their resources from and their products and their services? So let's say we work for a company that really exports work to like a third world country, and they have all the sweatshops set up. Simply by being the secretary at that company, even though you are not directly involved in forcing people to do manual labor for very cheap wages, you are still supporting that whole structure, that whole system, because you are a part of that system. You are still involved in that, even though you might rationalize it as I'm just a secretary, or I'm just a janitor, or I just do a little bit of the paperwork. It's no big deal. You're still involved in that. And there's no, I'm not trying to make you have a sense of shame or guilt about it. We just have to actually observe what is going on. What are we actually doing? And many jobs are contributing to really disease in the world. Like large portions of the vast majority of jobs really are going to be contributing to some form of disease. When I can put ads on my videos, I have to really look at what kinds of ads are going to be shown. Odds are it's probably not going to be very high quality information. It'll probably be junk food and video games and whatever stuff gets recommended to you guys. Who knows? But really, like I'm going to be putting ads, and I mean, like I have to view that as, I am taking a step in a direction that might affect people's well-being in a negative way. And you have to do the same for your work. If you work, let's say, at a entertainment company, you have to think about how many people are abusing that entertainment to distract themselves from whatever problems they might have and how that affects their mental health, for example. And even me just making YouTube videos, I know for a fact I'm feeding into people's YouTube addiction right now. So it's I want you to get that you can't just like point fingers and blame people and start like fighting with them. That's really not the point. Notice how I didn't write point fingers on the board. But you have to get that this is very complicated, and to simply just like escape this once and for all is very difficult. Like very difficult. The vast majority of people don't even really recognize that they are contributing to global systemic issues, nor do they even care. And they don't even really attempt to change that whatsoever. Whereas me, I'm thinking about how can I get out of this in the next like 10, 20, 30, 40 years, because that's the sort of time, that's the scale that I have to be looking at, because this is a fucking project that I have to actually be working on, and it's very difficult. It takes a lot of understanding, knowledge, resources, time, attention, skill development. It is not an easy thing. So taking a global perspective is very important, because it actually puts a lot of your actions into a larger context. You actually see beyond your little limited narrow point of view, and you can see how your actions actually affect other people. So moving on, we have compassion. This is the ability to feel empathy for others and to act with kindness and concern towards them. And this kind of relates to that global point of view. So we want to actually understand that there are various things that each of us do that contribute to human suffering, whether it's how we act in our relationship, the things we do for our career, the stores that we shop at, or whatever it is, driving a car and destroying the environment. We have to get that we are each contributing in however small or large ways to suffering, really, just the suffering of mankind. And we have to actually have compassion for ourselves and for other people. So we can't shame and guilt and attack ourselves about how horrible we are, because that doesn't actually do anything. And we don't want to do that to other people as well, because that doesn't really do anything. We actually want to figure out effective solutions by understanding these various values and look at long-term horizons in order to actually solve these problems, because these problems don't just get up and leave in 20 minutes, of course. These problems are complicated. They will literally take years and years and years in order to solve, and it'll take a team of people, a whole organization of people, of very intelligent people, in order to really solve these once and for all. It'll take way more than that. But yeah, it's important to actually just have compassion for people, because people suffer just like you. And I don't know about you, but personally, I don't really want people to just be stuck suffering. Moving on, we have integrity. This has a lot to do with honesty, authenticity, and consistency in one's words and actions, which is very difficult to do. Like I said, I don't want people suffering. Meanwhile, I'm going to be putting ads on my videos. And I'm thinking, like, is that going to contribute to, you know, like people just being distracted and like mental health problems? And already I know I'm feeding into someone's YouTube addiction, like I said. And it's like I'm already trying to see like how I don't want to just be doing that for the rest of my life. But for now, I kind of have to start somewhere. You know, I don't want to have to work at, let's say, any kind of place that, you know, contributes to anyone's lack of well-being. But it's very difficult to just start working, for example, at like, I don't know, some like heavenly organization, or to just create it out of nowhere. It's not really realistic. It takes time and effort and a lot of understanding and resources and forms of status and approval from people, and it takes a long time. So the problems that we actually face in our lives are very deep-rooted and complicated, and we don't even really want to look at them, which is why it's important to actually have some integrity and overall personal honesty, so that we can also, you know, well, we can admit that they exist, but also we can actually have some responsibility for them, going back to personal agency. So we can see that there is a relationship between honesty and personal agency, and taking responsibility for what is actually going on. So yeah, I really got to figure out some of the problems in my life too. Now, creativity is another one. The ability to think outside the box, innovate, and find new solutions to problems. This has a lot to do with taking on multiple points of view. So actually think of, you know, a unique point of view. Like actually, like you don't even have to think about it on your own. You can literally just Google like various points of view, like various subjects to study. You can get like psychology, and then within psychology you can get like sub branches of that, and then you can look at like music, and then you can make a relationship between psychology and music, and then like neuroscience, and then that, and like emotional intelligence. And already we're bridging together a bunch of stuff and connecting a bunch of stuff that is seemingly unrelated. Like, how can music possibly rewire your psychology so that you can have higher emotional intelligence? Like, and what are the effects of that on the brain, and how does that impact relationships? Like, it's, see how a lot of creativity has a lot to do with connection making? So that has a lot to do with just thinking outside the box, innovating, and finding new solutions to problems. The next is wisdom, and this is developing a deep understanding of the world and an ability to make high-quality judgments and decisions. And how do you actually do this? You do this through trial and error, experience, and a very important one, which will save you a lot of time, reading books and gathering deep information, deep forms of high-quality information, learning from other people's experiences, learning from other people's failures, learning from what other people have done, and really gaining wisdom from the lessons that they're actually trying to give you, so that you do not make the same mistakes that they did. A lot of dating coaches, for example, I can say like David Data right now. He's like a pretty famous relationship expert, and in one of his books he was talking about some of the mistakes he was making in like past relationships. And it's so funny because I'm just reading this and it's like, I will never make that mistake because I just read this book. Like, I'll never make so many mistakes because I just read a lot of these books. And it makes me significantly more competent in various areas of life, because I can see traps, I can see errors, I can understand why people would do them. I can just avoid so much stuff that I could have gotten stuck in for 5 or 10 years. And simply by sitting down and reading a book for a week, I just saved myself a lot of trial and error, a lot of suffering, and a lot of just confusion and misunderstanding just by reading a book. And literally just by that, I've already gained a very significant amount of wisdom because I've went to highly psychologically evolved people and bought their books. I've went to masters and various high quality teachers and I've learned from them. I've studied their stuff, and it's important that you do that as well, because that's actually how you gain wisdom. That's how you gain a lot of this stuff. That's how you gain holistic thinking, multiple points of view, wisdom, all this stuff. That's how you gain a global point of view. Where do you think I got this information from? I got this all from books, personal experience, solo contemplation, a lot of just personal reading and writing, the internet. I've really taken a lot of information from various sources and put them together to create this video right now. So wisdom is not something that simply comes with age. That's also just another classic myth that, if you're old, you're wise. If you're young, you're kind of stupid or whatever. Although if you have been developing wisdom for years and years and years and years and years, yeah, you're going to have a lot of wisdom. So the point I'm trying to make here is that wisdom is a skill that needs to be developed. Wisdom is not something you will just have because you live life. Wisdom is something you need to actively cultivate, or else you just won't have it. And it's just very important to actually learn from other people and actively study. That's one of the key words here. Actively do this stuff. It's like you actually have to put in effort. You can watch my video, The Recipe for Becoming a Master. In that video, I tell you the formula for mastery, which is attention plus energy plus time equals mastery. So when you give something your attention, your energy also follows, and when you do that for a period of time, you become skilled at that thing. So if you want to learn the piano, I've been playing a lot of the piano recently, you want to give it your attention, and then you're putting your energy into it because you're giving it your attention, and you're doing that for a long period of time, for 4 hours a day. In a month, you're going to have a lot more skills and a lot more mastery over that domain than being distracted or not focused or whatever. So giving something your attention, your energy follows. You're inputting yourself, your actual energy into the thing, and then do that for a long period of time. It's pretty simple. The next one is love. This one is very important. So this has a lot to do with having an emotional and spiritual connection to other people and basically all living things and really the world in general, and trying to act in the best interest of all people, trying to act in a way that cares about your well-being. That definitely matters. Your personal well-being matters. You cannot bypass that. And also incorporates the well-being of others so that I win, you win, and there's a third win. We haven't hurt anything in the process. We haven't hurt the environment. We haven't destroyed anything that's significant or meaningful. So it's like I win, you win, and we're not hurting things in the process of that. So we've all heard of like win-win, where, let's say there's a business deal. I get money, you get the resource that you paid for, and then we'll get those guys in the sweatshops to make it for us. Now, this isn't really a win-win-win. This is a win-win, where I win, you win. The third win is that people and other living things are not suffering as a byproduct of our actions. That's important. Curiosity is really big too. This involves a desire to learn and grow. And also discover and explore new things. Like I said, we don't really think of a lot of these things as skills. We don't really think of curiosity as a skill, but it actually is a skill. Curiosity is something that you actually need to develop within yourself, and you need to care about it in order to develop it. Most people don't care about being curious. That's just not really something that they do. Therefore, they're not very curious. Therefore, they don't explore new things. They don't gain a lot of knowledge. They don't read a lot of books. They don't do a meditation practice. They don't figure out what diet might be best for them. They just kind of are byproducts of the environment that they grew up in, and they're kind of just running on autopilot. They're relatively mindless and jumping from distraction to distraction, eating garbage food, things like this. So the next one is gratitude, and this is a very interesting one for problem solving. I was thinking about not even putting it in, but it was just such a counterintuitive thing to actually put in here. So actually being grateful for the problem, grateful for the people around you, grateful for your life, grateful for your mind, your body, your food, being learning how to cultivate gratitude, this puts you in a higher emotional state. This makes you feel good, which actually allows you to think more clearly. It actually adds clarity to your life so that you can have more effective solutions. So I thought that one was kind of interesting because we don't really think of like gratitude as a great way to solve problems, but actually gratitude is very important in problem solving. The next one is humility. This has a lot to do with recognizing your own limitations and the limits of basically your personal abilities and having a willingness to learn from others and accept feedback. This one is big. A willingness to learn from others. A lot of people have a lot of blocks when it comes to getting help from others because they want to be seen as like the alpha male and so smart and having it all together. But actually, this is a very social species. So we need to actually appreciate that other people have qualities and knowledge and wisdom that we just don't have. We're very ignorant of, and that it's very useful to us, and we can incorporate that in our multiple points of view, in our big picture thinking, in our holistic thinking, in our systemic thinking, so that we can become better problem solvers and actually figure out and master our life in a more effective way. So it's really important to actually, once again, actively learn from others. Ask people questions. Like when you're talking to people, ask them questions. Ask them why they believe the things they do, where they got that information from, if they have any personal experiences that validate it, things like that. Read books. Said that too many times now. Accepting feedback is also really important. A lot of people won't really accept feedback. And also you want to watch out who is giving you feedback. So the problem with the whole social domain is that you want to learn from the wise people. Like, duh. You don't want to learn from the people who are not wise. You want to actually identify what wisdom is. This is wisdom. You see these values. These values carry with them a hell of a lot of psychological maturity and wisdom. So by developing a lot of these skills, psychological, emotional skills, you can actually really identify how wise other people actually are based on their ability to use a lot of these skills, based off how loving they are, based off how integrous they are, based on how holistic their thinking is, based off how big picture their thinking is, based off their emotional intelligence, based off how non-judgmental they are, based off how compassionate they can be, based off how curious they can be, based off the responsibility that they take, based off also their willingness to see what is true. That one's really big. So that's that. Emotional intelligence, EQ. This one's really important in order to recognize, understand, manage one's emotions. So you want to understand, you want to have a deep understanding of emotions, okay? This one is very important. Emotions are not something to be struggled against or like rationalized away or thought of as irrational or girly. Emotions are actually guiding forces in your life, and they're actually trying to tell you something. They're actually ways that, like your sensations in your body and your emotions, they're actually telling you something. When you feel numb and dull and lethargic, you're probably distracted and not taking care of yourself. And then when you feel very angry or sad, like this stuff is telling you something. A lot of your emotions and sensations and your overall body is actually trying to communicate things to you. Just like when you're hungry, it's telling you to go eat food. Emotions and other sensations work the same way. Pain is telling you, don't do this, it's harmful. Emotions are trying to shape you up and guide you to be a healthy, functional, clear, and wise human being, but you need the emotional intelligence in order to actually see that. So I have a book right here called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. This is a very good one. You might want to take a look at that. Moving on, we have purpose, and purpose has a lot to do with actually feeling a deep sense of meaning in life. So feeling like you are called to do something larger. This has a lot to do with working towards something that also benefits yourself and others. It's actually very important to have a healthy amount of selfishness in you and get your own needs met in a healthy way while caring about others and not hurting anything else in the process. So the win-win-win. And that's very hard to really do in all areas of your life, the triple win. I win, you win, and we don't hurt anything. And neither of us are really hurting. Very difficult to really hit that balance. That's like a skill. Like you have to be a freaking genius in order to actually do that in all areas of your life. Like if anyone on this planet is doing that 100% in all areas of their life, they are a genius. They are probably the smartest human on the face of the planet, or within the top few smartest, most wise human beings on the face of this planet. So purpose has a lot to do with having a sense of meaning and direction in life. So you have to find things that are meaningful to you, that make you healthy and also make other people healthy, and really input a lot of yourself into that. And what I mean by input yourself into that is input your attention, your time, and your energy into that, and master something so that you can give to people, so you can actually master something that is valuable and helps people, and then give it out, and it also gives you value in return. So that's very important, because you need to live. You need to take care of yourself. You have to live, and hopefully live well. And I hope that's something you care about. There's no shame in being selfish. And selfish, I don't use this in a moral sense. I mean it more in just like a thinking in a more self-centered way. Like the thought, I need food, is a selfish thought. You're thinking about yourself. And it really matters that, you need food. You should go eat food. You should go get the money that you need. You should go get the relationships that you need. This stuff is very important for your well-being. And if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people and contribute value to them. If I did not care about my own personal understanding and my own emotional well-being and my own health and my own clarity, I could not assist anyone else to do the same. I would just be another lost human being struggling to get off my Instagram and do something meaningful with my life. But instead, I solved a lot of those problems, and here I am. So moving on is non-judgmentalism. This is a really big one, especially in relationships of all kind. This is the ability to suspend judgment and to accept others as they are without imposing one's own values or beliefs on them. Good luck with that. Like really, good luck with that one. A lot of the time when I'm talking to people, even let's say it's about my life, they will kind of like invalidate me because it's not what they think I should do or what they would want from their life. So when you are talking to other people, especially about the direction they want to move in or what they want out of life, it's important to recognize that it's about them and their values and their beliefs and what will make them well and what they desire and not what you desire. So there's a deep element of selflessness in non-judgmentalism. It has a lot to do with not forcing and manipulating and controlling people and letting people live the way they want to live, letting them be free and not imposing your own values and beliefs on them. And actually through that, people like you a lot more because you're not trying to control them. People don't want to feel like someone is controlling and manipulating them. People want to feel like you are giving them the freedom to be authentic and be themselves and actually care about that and love them for it. Moving on, we have self-awareness. This one is really big for reflecting on your own thoughts, emotions, intentions, motivations, desires, things like this. And actually recognizing how they impact the people around you and how they impact your life. So self-awareness is a skill that can be developed through journaling, reading about self-awareness, reading about emotional intelligence. Meditation is very important. Eating well, exercising daily. Those are also big for developing clarity and being able to be more self-awareness. There's actually degrees of self-awareness. There's stages of self-awareness that we really go through. And like I said, this is a skill. Self-awareness goes very deep. Moving on is systemic thinking. I've talked about a little bit about that before. It kind of goes back to holistic thinking, multiple points of view, and big picture thinking. This is the ability to see the interconnectedness of various systems and all the parts within the system. So, for example, we can think of two complex systems like an economic system and an education system. If a country has a very poor economic system, they probably also have a very poor education system. Because how are you going to fund the education if you don't have the resources to put into the education system? And they probably also don't have a very good healthcare system, because how are you going to really put resources towards health? And if we don't have a good education system, how are we going to solve our problems and get more intelligent in order to solve the economic problems that we have? So it's kind of like each system has its own place, and they all affect one another. So a bad economic system affects education, a bad education system affects economics, and various other systems. We can view you as a system. We can have you as a social system. Your, let's say, just as an example, your poor relationship skills might make you, let's say, depressed because you really want a relationship or you want to be able to connect with friends in a deep way, but you suck at it, but you're not very good at it. And that might make you overeat or be anxious or be nervous, and it might diminish your clarity and make you feel like your life is meaningless. And now we can see that your social skills have affected your diet, which also affected your psychological well-being, affected your emotions, it affected your career and your whole life purpose. And it's important to actually see these things as systems and how they connect with one another. And then it's also important to focus on one system and the various parts within that system that really create it and, see how they relate. So maybe we'll take socializing, for example. Maybe you need deeper emotional intelligence. Maybe you need more experience socializing. Maybe you have to read books on socializing as well. All those things will help you if you read books on socializing, and if you actually just go out and socialize and you increase your emotional intelligence, you even eat well, for example, like all of this stuff. Eat well is within, let's just say, that's we'll leave that out of this. We'll just only focus on socializing. Literally reading about socializing and then going out and socializing and like absorbing content in general that has to do with socializing and then going out and doing it. Literally just that. But the thing is our social skills will be even better if we increase our self-awareness, if we have a good exercise routine, if we have a good diet, if we have a career that we love and a purpose that we love, because all of this stuff contributes to our well-being and our clarity, which affects our ability to connect with people. So systems thinking is the ability to see the interconnectedness of systems and to understand the impact of one's actions on others and the environment. So it has a lot to do with moving beyond just yourself. It has a lot to do with seeing things from a global point of view, seeing how your actions actually ripple out and affect things that you might have not even thought that they would. So for example, when you go and you buy a shirt, where was that shirt made? Who made it? What were the conditions of that environment that they made it in? Or when you buy food, what potential unethical behavior does this business engage in? And when I buy food, I'm supporting it. When I buy food from them, I'm supporting it. Or when I work for them, I'm supporting it. I'm a part of it. I'm contributing to it. I'm actually inputting my attention, energy, and time into that system, which is keeping it alive. The next is flexibility. I've talked a lot about this. This is the ability to adapt to changing circumstances and situations and to be open to new experiences and ideas. This is basically, like I said, a lot to do with embracing change and actually changing yourself. Be open to new ideas. Be open to contradictory beliefs and philosophies. Be open to ideas that challenge yours. Try and see the validity in them. Try and see the wisdom in multiple points of view. So be very open-minded. Notice when you close your mind and when you get very defensive or aggressive or you attack points of view. Notice when you do this stuff, because odds are you're misunderstanding something in that point of view. If you have a genuine like almost hatred or like passive aggression or just full-on aggression towards a particular ideological system or philosophical belief system of any kind, really, odds are there's probably something you might be misunderstanding, and there's a more healthier way to relate to that system, that circumstance. So that's basically it for this video. These are the principles for effective solutions. If you actually develop these, my God, you're going to be very intelligent. But other than that, if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. But take it easy.